Developing story that we're following now, Bishop T.D. Jakes, the leader of Dallas megachurch, the Potter's House, announced today that he will be stepping down.
Big changes at one of the largest churches in Dallas. T.D. Jakes announced today he is stepping down as senior pastor of the Potter's House.
But I wanted to introduce to you your pastors.
You won't believe what's occurring at the Potter's home right now. T.D. Jakes, one of the most important pastors of our day, has stepped down as senior pastor, and the effect has been nothing short of astounding. But that's not all. There's been a shocking reply from LeAndria Johnson that you have to hear. Stay closely because this narrative is about to take an unexpected turn, and it's not what you think. T.D. Jakes, the founding pastor of the Potter's House, has announced his desire to stand down as the senior pastor after decades of leadership. But the narrative develops since this shift isn't just about a transfer in leadership, it's about what's occurring behind the scenes. In today's video, we'll be studying the factors for T.D. Jakes' stunning choice, the two persons standing forward to take over, and the responses from those closest to him, including gospel vocalist LeAndria Johnson, who has been making some incendiary statements of her own. You'll want to stay around because there are some jaw-dropping information you won't discover anyplace else. By the conclusion of this film, you'll have all the facts. And believe me, you won't look at the Jakes family or the Potter's home the same way again. It's the type of news that stops you in your tracks. On a seemingly typical Sunday, T.D. Jakes, the pastor who grew the Potter's House into one of the biggest and most prominent churches in the world, revealed that he was stepping down as the senior pastor. For years, Jakes has been at the forefront of a ministry that impacts millions of people internationally. His energetic preaching, along with his profound words on faith and endurance, have gained him a dedicated following, both inside and without the church walls. But why is he stepping down now? What could possibly motivate this giant of religion who has created an empire around his ministry make such a radical decision? While the official statement expressed a wish to concentrate on other projects and the future of his ministry, many are left speculating whether there's more to this news than meets the eye. After all, T.D. Jakes is not just any preacher. He's an icon in the Christian world. His choice to pass on the mantle of leadership is momentous, and it's producing a rippling effect across the Christian world. Some suggest that this relocation might be about guaranteeing a smoother transfer and ensuring that the heritage of the Potter's House continues without disturbance. Others are asking whether there are deeper personal motives that have yet to be exposed. Was there internal conflict? Or is this merely the next phase in a broader divine plan for the Jakes family? But the big shock comes when we look at who will be stepping into his shoes. That's when the plot takes a turn.
Proud of you. Don't get it twisted. I'd be proud of you if you were driving for the post office.
When T.D. Jakes made his momentous pronouncement, the religious world was buzzing. But what followed was something no one could have expected.
You blind! If you sit in your church and you know, well, why can't I live like that? You can't tell me you sit in church and you don't be like, well, why can't I live like my pastor? Why can't I live like my first lady?
I'm pretty sure they don't want me to be there because I said Christianity, the church. I said that.
LeAndria Johnson, the gospel vocalist recognized for her raw talent and frank demeanor, had something to say. And believe me, it's not what you're expecting. Now, we all know LeAndria Johnson as a force in gospel music, with a career that's experienced both soaring highs and some tremendous personal problems. She's been candid about her life, from her ascent to prominence to her problems with addiction, divorce, and her current fight with mental health. Her honesty has made her an approachable figure to many, and she's never been hesitant about voicing her thoughts, particularly when it comes to the church world. So when word emerged about T.D. Jakes stepping down, LeAndria's response surprised many by surprise. In a series of social media postings and interviews, she didn't mince words. While others showed shock and anguish, LeAndria appeared almost relieved. She stated that this moment was long needed and that it may be a turning point for the church, particularly for younger generations who may not feel represented by conventional leadership methods. Her statement struck a connection with many, but others couldn't help but wonder, is there more underlying LeAndria's response than merely a view on church leadership? Some supporters feel she's pointing out a bigger problem inside the church, one where some leaders have been too strong, too untouchable, and too dominating for too long. And LeAndria's response appears to indicate a need for change, for something new. She's been open about feeling ostracized in the business, and some are wondering that her statements about Jake stepping down could be a reflection of her own concerns with a system that raises great stars but fails to nurture those in the shadows. But that's not all. There's another portion of her response that you need to hear because it's going to become a lot more dramatic. LeAndria Johnson's response to TD Jake stepping down didn't end at merely proclaiming her relief. No, she went beyond, digging deep into what many consider an unpleasant but essential discourse about the status of the church and its leadership. In an interview that got many churchgoers and gospel lovers buzzing, LeAndria made a startling revelation that has left many doubting what they thought they knew about the church's power structures. She publicly questioned the role of megachurch leaders in the modern-day gospel landscape, stressing how the attention on high-profile pastors like TD Jakes may overshadow the genuine work that needs to be done inside the communities they serve. According to LeAndria, too many pastors and church leaders have grown more preoccupied with establishing empires and keeping their money than with truly helping their congregations.
So good. I'ma just take my time, and not take my time, but just to be able to embrace his presence. And
LeAndria didn't stop there. She took aim at the way church leaders manage controversy and scandal, something that's all too typical in today's atmosphere. She pointed out how many leaders, despite their imperfections, continue to be admired and supported, even when their behavior do not fit with the basic ideals they espouse. LeAndria even insinuated that there could have been a degree of church politics at play in Jakes' decision to stand down. Could this move be a premeditated attempt to transfer the torch and move on before more damaging revelations come to light? Some viewers were stunned by her honesty, but others who knew LeAndria well weren't surprised. She's never been one to back away from controversy, particularly when it comes to the church. Her comment posed an important issue. Is it time for the church to evolve? Could TD Jakes stepping down be a harbinger of a wider change in the way church leadership is handled? Or is it a hint that the same old systems are still in place, but under different leadership? The weird thing is, LeAndria wasn't the only one with this opinion. A number of prominent gospel singers and church insiders have hinted at similar difficulties, and there are murmurs of future power battles inside the Potter's house itself. Some have even alleged that the changeover was influenced by select members of the church who may have spotted the writing on the wall. TD Jakes' leadership style, although forceful, can be considered as archaic by some of the newer leaders moving up through the ranks. But that's not where the narrative stops. The narrative deepens even more when we examine the two persons TD Jakes has picked as his successors. And let me tell you, their histories and the way they're interwoven into this entire situation may surprise you. As the news of TD Jakes stepping down circulated, the great issue on everyone's mind became who could possibly take over a ministry as broad and important as the Potter's house. After all, Jakes didn't simply manage a congregation, he developed an empire with thousands of members, a big media presence, and a worldwide ministry. Replacing him was never going to be an easy chore. But TD Jakes has made his choice, and it's a move that's already causing controversy. In his declaration, Jakes stated that his successors will be none other than his son, Cora Jakes Coleman, and his close ally, Bishop Jonathan Miller. But who are they? And what makes them the ideal match for such a massive responsibility? Let's start with Cora Jakes Coleman, TD Jakes' daughter. She's been active in the Potter's house for years, working as an executive pastor and acting as a role model for women in ministry. Cora has created her own name as a dynamic preacher and leader, recognized for her impacting lectures on healing and personal development. But here's the fascinating part. While she has a strong influence inside the church, others worry whether she's genuinely ready to take on the leadership position of such a vast organization. Many feel Cora has the potential to be a transformative leader. She's not only following in her father's footsteps, she's also forging her own route, concentrating on themes like mental health, women's empowerment, and personal repair. These are all subjects that appeal with a new generation of churchgoers who are yearning for more than just conventional preaching. Cora's approach has been innovative, approachable, and certainly significant. But the great issue remains: can she negotiate the obstacles of governing the Potter's house on a worldwide scale? The responsibility of carrying on her father's legacy is tremendous, and some opponents think that Cora would encounter substantial hurdles in establishing herself to the larger church community. Now, let's speak about Bishop Jonathan Miller, a long-standing friend and companion of T.D. Jakes. B. Miller is noted for his dramatic preaching style and has a strong following of his own. He's worked in many leadership capacities at the Potter's house throughout the years and is regarded by many to be a natural fit for leadership. But although Miller's credentials are good, others have voiced worries about the dynamics of having two successors, one family and one outsider, take over the reins of such a vast ministry. Could this lead to possible tension or rivalry between the two leaders? Or will they be able to find a way to work together and drive the Potter's house to even greater heights? What makes this issue even more difficult is the constant discussion concerning T.D. Jakes' future position in the church. While he's stepping down as senior pastor, will he still have a substantial effect on the church's direction? Will he continue to preach, travel, and make critical choices behind the scenes? Or is this indeed the end of his direct engagement in day-to-day operations? And there's another perspective to consider. Jacques' choice to stand down may be a deliberate move to safeguard the future of the Potter's house, ensuring that the ministry continues relevant and active for centuries to come. But how will the congregation react to this new leadership structure? Will they welcome it, or will they struggle to accept change after so many years of following T.D. Jakes? The future of the Potter's house is clearly at a crossroads. And when the dust starts to settle following Jakes' revelation, it's evident that the shift is only the beginning of a much broader tale. But what's genuinely at risk here? Is this about the church's survival, or is it about the survival of a deeply established leadership paradigm in a fast-changing world? As the news of T.D. Jakes stepping down continues to echo around the Christian world, one thing is becoming evident. The Potter's house stands at a crossroads. The question on everyone's mind now is, what happens next? Can the church stay as prominent as it was under Jakes' leadership? Or is this a symptom of a bigger change in the way megachurches operate? You know, the Potter's house has been a beacon of faith for millions. It's not only a house of worship, it's a community, a cultural institution. For years, T.D. Jakes has been the face of the church, leading with charisma, knowledge, and a vision that drew people in from all areas of life. His ability to connect with his flock, from the sermon to his compelling television presence, has been unequaled. But today, as he takes over the reins, the strain on Cora Jakes Coleman and Bishop Jonathan Miller is unthinkable. What's at risk here is not only the destiny of the Potter's house, it's the future of church leadership as a whole. As we move into an age when the church confronts new problems, from altering cultural norms to changing demographics, the question arises, is the conventional model of megachurch leadership still viable, or is it becoming outdated? The Potter's house is hardly the only church coping with this transformation. Across the nation, more and more churches are seeing established leaders move aside in favor of younger, more diverse successors. While some of these transitions have been easy, others have led to division and strife. The growth of younger, more socially aware leaders has generated a contradiction between established church models and the need for a more progressive, inclusive approach. For the Potter's house, this changeover might be a landmark moment. Cora and Bishop Miller symbolize two contrasting ways to leadership. Cora gives a new, unique viewpoint. She's a champion for women in ministry, and her emphasis on mental health, healing, and empowerment resonates to a generation that seeks honesty and vulnerability. She's not simply a pastor, she's a leader who understands the complicated concerns affecting today's churchgoer. But can she retain the enormous momentum that T.D. Jakes constructed over decades. On the other side, Bishop Jonathan Miller represents the more conventional, established way. His years of work at the Potter's House have gained him respect and appreciation, and he's recognized as someone who knows the church's heritage. However, others ask whether this strategy is adequate to keep the Potter's House relevant in an age when churches are more compelled to react to social justice concerns, global crises, and the changing needs of the next generation. And there's one more ingredient to this: the congregation. The individuals who have poured their souls into the Potter's House throughout the years are passionately involved in the path the church will take. The issue is, will they follow Cora Jakes Coleman and Bishop Jonathan Miller? Will they accept change? Or will they feel like they've lost something vital in the process? In many respects, the ultimate test of this transformation comes in how the congregation reacts. There's also the problem of the church's influence. T.D. Jakes didn't only lead a congregation. He developed a brand, an empire with worldwide reach. His impact expanded beyond the pulpit, affecting the realms of journalism, business, and entertainment. The issue today is whether his successors have the same capacity to connect these cultures and sustain the Potter's House's strong position on the global scene. With social media, streaming platforms, and a worldwide audience, the prospects for ministry are bigger than ever. But can Cora and Bishop Miller tap into these chances as efficiently as Jakes did? But let's stop for a second, because the actual topic here is far wider than merely leadership changes or church politics. This is about the future of faith communities, particularly in an age when church attendance is dropping and religious influence is fading. Will megachurches like the Potter's House continue to prosper? Or is this an indication of a bigger change in the way we approach worship and community building? As T.D. Jakes steps down and hands the torch to Cora Jakes Coleman and Bishop Jonathan Miller, the congregation of the Potter's House is left with one important question. Will they accept the shift? Or will this be the beginning of a fight to retain unity and momentum? When a leader as momentous as T.D. Jakes walks away, it's not only the pastors or church workers that are impacted, it's the whole congregation. For decades, Jakes has been the guiding light for thousands of people, pulling them in with his compelling teachings, his charm, and his ability to touch to the core of human suffering. People didn't only visit the Potter's home, they were a part of something far greater than themselves, a community founded on trust and a shared conviction in the potential of change. But now, with Jake stepping away, some veteran members are naturally feeling apprehensive. The issue arises, would they trust Cora and Bishop Miller to continue on the vision of the church? Or will they feel like they've lost something irreplaceable? For some, T.D. Jakes wasn't simply a preacher. He was a symbol of hope, a bigger-than-life person who helped people negotiate life's biggest obstacles. Can his successors fill those shoes? Or will there be a divide between the new leadership and the congregation? It's crucial to highlight that the transition to new leadership isn't only about the new leader's credentials or vision. It's also about the bond they build with the people they lead. Cora Jakes Coleman and Bishop Jonathan Miller are not merely coming into positions of authority. They're inheriting the aspirations, desires, and even concerns of thousands of parishioners who have constructed their spiritual lives around T.D. Jakes' teachings. Cora, with her focus on mental health, healing, and personal empowerment, will certainly appeal with the church's younger population. Her words relate to individuals who may have been ostracized in the past or who are yearning for a more contemporary, compassionate approach to Christianity. Her ability to address modern concerns and give counsel on personal development will appeal with many members who are suffering with mental health difficulties, relationship issues, and the challenges of living in a fast-paced, sometimes overwhelming environment. However, this emphasis on mental health and personal empowerment is not always welcomed by all churchgoers. Some may choose a more conventional style to ministry, focusing upon preaching, worship, and the Bible's unchanging teachings. These members could struggle to connect with Cora's more progressive message, particularly if they believe that the church is changing away from the teachings that first brought them in. Then there's Bishop Jonathan Miller, who represents a more conventional style to leadership. His years of work at the Potter's House have won him respect within the congregation, and his consistent presence is considered as a calming force during this moment of change. However, the question remains, Can this conventional approach connect with the next generation of churchgoers? Will his concentration on theology and the continuity of the church's established methods be enough to keep the Potter's House prospering in an age when people are increasingly demanding authenticity and relevance from their spiritual leaders? As with every leadership shift, there will surely be some opposition. Some attendees will welcome the shift with open arms, delighted about the promise of a new chapter for the Potter's House. Others, however, may feel resistive, unable to let go of the familiar, larger-than-life presence of T.D. Jakes. It's not unusual for congregations to suffer a time of instability and uncertainty after the loss of a beloved leader, and the Potter's House will likely go through its own season of adjustment as members decide whether to remain or go. What's remarkable, however, is that this leadership shift might potentially give a chance for the church to flourish in new and unexpected ways. The Potter's House has always been about diversity and change, and with the current leadership, it might attract an even more varied and involved community. But this will rely on how effectively Cora and Bishop Miller can maintain the difficult balance between preserving the church's rich past and accepting the need for change. But here's where things become really intriguing.